also represented him. So unfortunately, you can imagine the kinds of things that I got into with him, but I can't explain those to you because I have an attorney-client privilege. But there probably are a few things which he won't mind that I share with him. And maybe they're from a little different angle. We had a man that was in the ward where he was the bishop, and I was the young men's president at the time, and I was the elders quorum president. And I was walking down the hallway where the chapel is, and I heard this scuffling going on and this yelling going on, and I looked over, and Ron is at the door at the chapel, and where you come into the building, and he's got his arms spread across the doorway, and this guy's trying to get into church, and he's yelling at the guy and telling him to get out of there. He's never welcome to come into the church again. And it was a guy named Richard Leo Morrison, and this guy was kind of nuts. And so I was actually afraid for Ron because I didn't know what this guy had on him, but he wouldn't let him in the building. And the guy said, well, you can't do that. I'm going to go to the stake president. And Ron said, he can punch my ticket for all I care. You're not coming into the building. As long as I'm the bishop, you'll never, ever be in this building again. So the guy finally left. And that was a smart move on his part. And then I had other experiences like that. For some reason, there was a fellow that was in the church leadership in our ward who was kind of disrespecting Ron. So Ron called him and said, come on into my office. And then he said to me, he goes, you come into my office too. And I thought, okay, this is gonna be interesting. So he wanted a referee, is what he really wanted. So he had this guy take out a temple recommend, which is an important piece of paper that a lot of us have, and set it on the desk. We thought that would make the guy more humble. And I had never seen this guy more humble than when his temple recommend was sitting in front of him, and he was trying to defend himself for some of the things that he had done. I can remember another time that we went up to church conference in Salt Lake City, and there was a couple of us, and Ron and I rented a room. And so we came walking into the room, and the next thing I knew, I was flying through the air. And he had leaped on me, and we landed on the bed, and we started wrestling. And we wrestled through it. We broke a bed, and we wrestled through all this stuff, and he would not get off of me. I could not get rid of this guy. He is so strong. He's like wrestling with a bear. So needless to say, I got the worst end of that whole experience. But I don't think we ever had to pay for the bed. Maybe he did and never told me about it. There's so many things that he did for me over the years. It's unbelievable. I can remember one of the things that was very touching to me was that I was finished with law school, and Cindy and I were trying to buy our first house. And so they wouldn't qualify me. So he offered to be a co-signer. So that's how I got my first house, was for him co-signing it. And he was a very sweet man. I use that term. He didn't like me to say that to him. But he really was. He had a grandiose heart. He was just such a good man. And I hope that those are the things that we can remember about him as we think of him now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.